Welcome to our series on the top 20 questions candle makers ask. Today I'm kicking off a brand new series where I'm answering the top 20 questions being asked right now in the Reddit and Facebook candle making communities. These aren't random questions. These are the questions that come up over and over again from beginners and hobbyists alike. Today we're covering questions 1 through 5. If we haven't met yet, I'm Kimberly Patterson, author of The Candle Artist Way, and I teach candle makers how to turn plain vessels into works of art using sublimation and engraving. And here's what I've learned after talking to hundreds of candle makers. Many of us hit the same walls: weak scent throw, tunneling, ugly tops, wicking issues, fragrance load confusion. The good news? Most of these problems are completely fixable once you understand what's actually causing them. So let's dive in. Question number 1, why is my hot throw weak? If I had $1 for every time I heard this question, I could probably buy another laser. Weak hot throw is hands down the number one complaint in candle making. And unfortunately, the advice people often get is, just add more fragrance oil. Most of the time, that's not the answer. In fact, adding more oil can sometimes make the problem worse. When I troubleshoot weak hot throw, I look at 3 things first: cure time, fragrance quality, and wax selection. Let's start with cure time. Many candle makers test a candle far too early. The candle looks done. It smells great cold, so they light it the next day. Then they're disappointed. What they're forgetting is that fragrance molecules need time to bind with the wax, especially if you're using soy. Most soy waxes need 1 to 2 weeks before you can truly judge hot throw. If you're testing on day 2 or 3, you're not seeing the candle's actual performance. You're seeing an unfinished candle. We are going to go deeper into cure time in a minute. Let's first talk about soy wax in particular. If you are using soy wax, some candle makers add coconut oil, V-bar, or stearic acid to improve their hot throw. You wouldn't do this if you're already using an engineered blend for performance, but if your wax is 100% soy, this might be a solution. Now let's talk about fragrance oil itself. Not all fragrance oils are created equal. A premium fragrance oil at 8% will often outperform a cheap fragrance oil at 12%. Some oils are simply formulated better for candles. They vaporize better, they disperse better, and they throw better. If you're buying fragrance based solely on price, weak hot throw may have nothing to do with your candle making process. It may be the oil. The third factor is your wax. Different waxes release fragrance differently. Paraffin is still the king of hot throw. That's just reality. Soy tends to have a softer scent release. Coconut blends often provide beautiful, balanced performance, but may require a little more attention to wick selection and fragrance pairing. The wax matters a lot. Don't be afraid to change waxes if your hot throw is not what you expect. Now, here's the bonus variable that many makers overlook: your wick. A wick isn't just a piece of string. The wick is the engine of your candle. Different wick series create different flame sizes, different melt pools, and different burn temperatures. And that temperature is what vaporizes your fragrance oil. I've personally seen a simple wick change completely transform hot throw. Same wax, same fragrance, same vessel, different wick, different result. That's why I always encourage makers to test multiple wick series rather than getting locked into a single brand. The cure time truth. Let's dig a little deeper, because cure time deserves its own conversation. Think about cure time as a maturation process. During the first couple of days, fragrance molecules are still settling into the wax structure. The scent often feels weak, thin, or incomplete. As the days pass, the fragrance becomes more integrated. Cold throw improves, hot throw improves, and performance becomes more consistent. For most waxes, especially soy, somewhere between 7 and 14 days is where you'll get your most accurate test results. Now, there are exceptions. Luxury engineered waxes like cocoa apricot creme were designed differently. These waxes can often be tested within just a few days. This is one reason they've become so popular among luxury candle makers. Now on to question number 2. Why is my candle tunneling? This is a common misunderstood problem in candle making. Most people think tunneling happens because someone didn't burn the candle long enough. Sometimes that's true, but more often than not, the real problem is an undersized wick. The wick simply isn't generating enough heat to melt the wax all the way to the edges. The result? A tunnel forms around the wick, and all that beautiful wax along the outside never gets used. Now let's talk about one of my favorite myths, the full melt pool myth. You've probably heard, you must get a full melt pool on the first burn. The problem is that advice has become oversimplified. What we're actually looking for is a candle that develops appropriately over multiple burn sessions. If you overwick a candle just to force a fast melt pool, you create new problems. Mushrooming, soot, overheated vessels, and burned off fragrance. A better approach is to evaluate your candle over several burns. Watch how the melt pool develops at 1 hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours. Collect data, then make adjustments. That's how professional candle makers approach wicking. The fix can be to wick up, but sometimes this fix is to add an additional wick. This is true for jars that are over 3.25 inches in diameter, and the bonus is 2 wicks increase your hot throw. To summarize tunneling fixes, start by looking at your wick size. If your candle is tunneling, don't test 1 wick size at a time. Test 3 wick sizes simultaneously, your current wick, 1 size up, and 2 sizes up. You'll get better data in a single burn session and eliminate weeks of guesswork. Next, make sure the candle is burning long enough. As a general guideline, allow about 1 hour of burn time for every inch of jar diameter. A 3-inch jar should typically burn for at least 3 hours. If the candle is already tunneling, don't assume it's ruined. A candle warmer can help melt down the wax walls, or you can carefully use a heat gun on a low setting to level the surface before the next burn. Finally, consider the size of your vessel. If your jar is over 3.25 inches in diameter and you're using only 1 wick, the issue may not be wick size at all. You may simply need additional heat coverage from a second or third wick. The key takeaway is that a tunneling candle is not a lost cause. Most tunneling issues can be corrected by evaluating wick size, wick count, and burn habits one variable at a time. Question number 3. Why do I have rough tops, frosting, or sinkholes? Let's separate these because they're actually 3 different issues. Rough tops are usually caused by pouring too hot or cooling too quickly. Frosting is that white crystalline appearance you often see on soy candles. And sinkholes are caused by wax contraction as the candle cools. The important thing to understand is this: not every cosmetic issue is actually a problem. Let's start with rough, bumpy tops. To fix bumpy tops, start by looking at your pour temperature and cooling conditions. Bumpy tops are usually caused by wax cooling too quickly or pouring at a temperature that doesn't work well for your specific wax. Try adjusting your pour temperature, keep your workspace free from drafts, and allow candles to cool slowly and undisturbed. If you're using a wax that is naturally prone to rough tops, a heat gun can quickly smooth the surface. Most importantly, document your pour temperature and results so you can identify the combination that consistently produces a smooth, professional finish. Now frosting. Frosting is completely normal in soy wax. In fact, many people consider it proof that you're working with a natural wax. You can reduce frosting, but you cannot permanently eliminate it. And most importantly, it does not affect performance. Your candle can burn beautifully and still frost. Now, sinkholes are a little different. Sinkholes are structural. They occur when air becomes trapped beneath the surface and the wax collapses as it cools. The good news is they're easy to fix. You can perform a second pour, you can top off the candle, or you can poke relief holes and refill the area. Personally, I always recommend saving a little leftover wax from every batch for repairs. It makes life much easier. Different waxes behave differently. Soy may frost, paraffin may sink, coconut blends can be extremely soft. And luxury cocoa apricot waxes often produce beautiful, smooth finishes with very little effort. Understanding what's normal for your wax is half the battle. Question number 4. What fragrance percentage should I use? This is where many candle makers get into trouble, because the assumption is more fragrance equals more scent. Not necessarily. Every wax has a maximum fragrance load, and once you exceed that limit, problems begin. The wax simply can't hold any more oil. The excess oil separates, it sweats, it pools, and in extreme cases, it can create safety concerns. As a general guideline, soy wax often performs best around 6 to 8%. Paraffin usually handles higher loads. Coconut blends often live somewhere in the middle. For me personally, I always use 8%. 8% has a stronger hot throw for me than 9 or 10%. This is common. Sometimes less is more. Keep in mind I use cocoa apricot creme wax. Every wax performs differently. But here's the important part. Always follow the technical data sheet for your specific wax. The manufacturer already did the testing. Use that information. And please, measure by weight, not by volume. Use a digital scale. Be precise, because consistency is what allows you to troubleshoot effectively. Also pay attention to temperature. Adding fragrance at the wrong temperature can reduce performance. Pouring at the wrong temperature can create sinkholes, rough tops, adhesion issues, and weak scent throw. Temperature matters. Question number 5. How do I choose the correct wick size? The honest answer? You test. That's it. There isn't a shortcut. There isn't a magic chart. And there isn't a wick calculator that can account for every variable. Because you aren't really wicking a jar. You're wicking a system. That system includes the vessel, the wax, the fragrance, the dye, the additives, and the wick. Change any one of those variables and the results can change. That's why professional makers build wick systems instead of chasing individual candles. When I test, I document everything. The wick series, the wick size, the wax type and manufacturer, the fragrance supplier and name, the fragrance percentage, the add fragrance temperature, the pour temperature, and every burn observation. Over time, that documentation becomes incredibly valuable. Because instead of starting over with every candle, you're building a database of knowledge you can reference again and again. Final thoughts. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today's video, it's this. Stop viewing problems as failures. Start viewing them as data. The best candle makers are not the people who never have problems. They're the people who document, test, and learn from every batch. When something goes wrong, identify the symptom. Isolate the most likely variable. Change only one thing. Test again, then evaluate the result. Because my business is based on personalization, often I make one candle at a time for a specific fragrance. When I test a new fragrance, the only variable I change is the wick size. When I have a winner, it is documented on a note card, so the next time I sell that fragrance, I don't have to retest. This is how real progress happens. Next week, we're tackling questions 6 through 10. What temperature should I add fragrance oil? What temperature should I pour at? How long should candles cure? What is the best wax for beginners? And why is my wick mushrooming? If you're a candle maker, you won't want to miss it. And if you know someone struggling with these exact issues, share this video with them. Until next time, remember, every expert candle maker started exactly where you are today, one test candle at a time. If you're serious about candle making, start thinking like a candle artist. If you want to go deeper into candle design, sublimation, engraving, and creating candles that truly stand out, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in getting my book on sublimation and engraving at cost, the link is in the description. Buyers of my book can explore a free trial that includes one-on-one coaching, a physical monthly newsletter delivered to your front door, and my private school community. And If you'd rather buy my candles instead of making them yourself, I've added a link to my Etsy shop below. See you next time on The Candle Artist Way.